The engine in this BMW i8 should not exist in this car. It's a 1.5-liter 3-cylinder, the same basic engine family that ended up in Minis and entry-level BMWs. But somehow BMW engineers managed to turn it into a 231 horsepower sports car engine that helped launch this i8 from 0 to 60 in just over 4 seconds. BMW redesigned a surprising amount of this engine compared to a normal B38. So today we're going to take a look at what makes the BMW i8's B38 engine special, how BMW squeezed so much power out of it, and some of the weird engineering solutions hidden underneath these covers. At first glance, the i8 engine doesn't seem very exotic. Yes, it's mounted in the middle of the car rather than the front, but it's just a Mini Cooper engine, right? Well, technically that's not entirely wrong. The B38 family engines appear in multiple BMW and Mini models, producing anywhere from 130 to 180 horsepower depending on the application. But the version in the i8 is special. Its full name is B38K15T0, and that last letter is important. The T designation stands for the top performance class. This was intended to be the ultimate version of the B38 engine, and BMW engineers treated it that way. One of these engines in a Mini already efficiently makes power, but the i8 version makes 231 horsepower and 236 pound-feet of torque. That works out to more than 154 horsepower per liter, and this car was released back in 2014. Those numbers were seriously impressive at the time and are still better than most production engines today. So where does the extra power come from? The easy answer is boost, lots of boost. The little engine runs at a peak boost pressure of up to 22 psi, and that completely changes the game. Of course, it isn't running a normal turbo either. The housing of the turbocharger was integrated in the steel manifold, and the variable turbine geometry was modified and is controlled by an electronic wastegate valve, allowing for that increase in charging pressure. A standard B38 engine peaks at about 14 psi of boost to compare. And that was the easy part. Now BMW had to strengthen the engine so it could survive that increase in boost. As we know, making power is fairly easy. Making that power reliably is much harder. The moment you increase boost, heat becomes the enemy as well, which leads us to one of the coolest engineering tricks BMW used on this BMW i8. The air intake system is completely different on the i8. It isn't just modified, it's entirely unique. For starters, BMW created a dual path intake system where one path is focused on performance and the other is focused on acoustics. The car automatically changes which path the air flows through depending on the engine speed. Why? Well, in classic BMW fashion, they wanted the best performance, but discovered certain lower RPM ranges created annoying noises. So they engineered around it. This way, it sounds good at lower engine speeds, but also gets all the air it needs at those higher speeds. This car also introduced something BMW hadn't used before on this engine family, a water-cooled throttle body. Now, that sounds completely unnecessary because, honestly, when was the last time you worried about your throttle body overheating? Well, because of the engine packaging and the amount of heat generated by the turbo system, BMW decided extra cooling was necessary. So they literally integrated coolant passages into the throttle body housing. What's even more impressive is what happens after the turbo. Most cars use a traditional front-mounted intercooler, but of course this i8 is different. BMW integrated a water-to-air intercooler directly into the intake system. Overly complicated? Yes. But it creates a much shorter charge air plumbing, which means less pressure loss, better throttle response, and more power. These small details most owners never see is one of the reasons why the engine feels so responsive and rev happy. And it really shows how serious BMW took thermal management on this engine. More air means more fuel. More fuel means more power. It's that simple. But of course the engine has to handle this and not blow up in the process. So one of the first things BMW changed with the B38 engine was the bottom end. I like to think of it this way. Every time the turbo crams more air into the engine, combustion becomes more violent, which means more force pushing down on the pistons, more force going through the rods, and more force going into the crankshaft. So the main bearings and the connecting rods were enlarged to 50 millimeters to handle the increased loads created by the higher cylinder pressures. The cylinder head was also redesigned using a different casting process that produced a stronger and denser structure. Even the exhaust valves were upgraded. The valve stem shaft diameter was increased to 6 millimeters because BMW found that under higher boost and aggressive valve timing, the original design could experience unwanted vibrations. Basically, engineers started finding those weak points and strengthening them one by one. Speaking of unwanted vibrations, that's one problem every three-cylinder engine inherently has. Three-cylinder engines are naturally unbalanced. That's just physics, and BMW knew that extra power would make those vibrations even more noticeable. So they created a special vibration damper with a decoupled pulley system. The training manual actually compares its operation to a dual mass flywheel, as its job is to isolate torsional vibrations before they travel through the accessory drive. That basically means the engine feels smoother, components last longer, and the whole system is quieter. Once again, something no one will ever pay attention to or see, but I love the engineering effort BMW has put into this car, trying to make this tiny three-cylinder behave like something much larger and more refined. Here's a very interesting part that most people miss when talking about this engine. The i8's engine wasn't designed in isolation. It was designed as part of the hybrid system, which allowed BMW to do things differently. For example, there is no conventional starter motor and there is no traditional alternator. Even the air conditioning compressor isn't belt-driven like it would be on a normal car. Instead, hybrid components handle some of those jobs. That gave BMW engineers much more freedom when designing the front of the engine, and it led to one of the strangest systems you'll find on the entire car. This was something I noticed when I was replacing the coolant pump on this i8. The weird belt drive system. The way this is set up is that the belt drive only runs the coolant pump and, most importantly, the high voltage starter generator. This component can start the engine, generate electricity, assist the engine, and help recharge the hybrid battery. So it acts as a starter, alternator, and a turbocharger in some ways. Because power can flow in both directions, BMW couldn't use a conventional belt tensioner. So they developed something called a pendulum belt tensioner. And depending on whether the engine is driving the generator or the generator is driving the engine, the tensioner changes how it applies force to the belt. This also meant that they had to increase the drive belt from 6 to 8 ribs for added strength. It's one of those engineering solutions that sounds completely ridiculous until you realize it solves a very specific set of problems. And that is what makes the i8 engine so interesting. On paper, it's just a turbocharged 1.5-liter three-cylinder. But when you look closer, you find stronger internals, a unique cooling system, a completely redesigned intake, hybrid-specific hardware, special vibration control systems, and a bunch of engineering solutions that never appeared in ordinary B38 engines. The result was one of the most advanced production three-cylinder engines BMW has ever built, and even today it's hard not to appreciate how much engineering went into making this tiny engine produce 231 horsepower while helping power one of the BMW's most futuristic cars ever. If you've enjoyed this slightly deeper dive into the BMW i8, let me know what part of the car I should cover next, because the engineering behind this thing gets even crazier once you start looking into the hybrid system and how the electric motor boosts the engine in this car to get the best performance. It's definitely not just a fancy Prius. Anyway, check out how I got scammed buying this car at an auction by going to this video right here. Like the video if you found it interesting, and subscribe for a lot more BMW content. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!